you're still using a manual process to manage your contracts, you're probably facing some issues around getting the most out of your contract. One of the biggest issues is your time to contract efficiency. When too much time is taken between receiving a contract for review and getting it reviewed and then signed, the longer this period drags on, the more tension there is between the negotiating parties and also internal stakeholders. And this can lead to situations where contracts are signed just for the sake of getting them over the line. But how do we solve this? Many businesses have turned their attention to tech, a contract lifecycle management solution where they can optimize and even automate parts of their contract review and signature process. This can include extracting data, setting service level agreements known as SLAs for reviewing contracts or any other phase of the contract review process, storing SLAs that are in the contract and then monitoring the performance of your vendor against those SLAs. And of course, using digital signatures to fast track contracts, because hey, no one wants to be sending paper documents, receiving them in the post, and then signing them with wet ink and then sending them back. Another area that can suffer is contract value. When there's a lot of day-to-day administration of contracts, whether this is with your legal team, your contract team, or even your procurement team, you end up with these teams focusing on work that adds little to no value, as opposed to risk management, relationship management, pre and post signature contract management. I speak to people who spend an absurd amount of time trying to find contracts. I just ran a poll on LinkedIn and I was shocked by how many people said that they can't even find contract documents. And weirdly, they were already using digital solutions. I remember in my early days in commercial roles where I would be looking for contracts, I would have to go to someone on a service desk, ask them to locate a contract. They would tell me which filing cabinet it was in. These file cabinets spanned 2 massive offices, another office, and an archival site that was off the site in a secure location. And they would tell me where to go find it. And if it was on site, I would have the pleasure of trying to locate the keys, find a contract, and of course, no one organized the contracts. They were just dumped in. Some people did, but most people didn't. And you would find more times than not that these contracts weren't where the service desk said they were. So you could spend literally hours, sometimes days, trying to find a contract. Now, this was 7 years ago when I started that role, and I've seen it time and time again over the last 2 to 5 years as well. It's unbelievable that this is still happening. And all I have to do now is turn to Gatekeeper, type in the contract I'm looking for or the vendor, or just go onto the vendor record, go to the contract record and do it that way. And don't even get me started on contract compliance. See, contract compliance is making sure that everyone is adhering to the contract obligations, that everything that's been stated in that contract. But how on earth can we do that if we're spending so much time doing all of these other things I've just mentioned? But with contract management software, you can track all of this. You can track all of your obligations and make sure that whoever's responsible for them is on top of that work. And to make this even better, when you have a contract lifecycle management solution in place, you can create self-serve contracts. And this is particularly powerful because legal can sign off on a contract document. Maybe it's a non-disclosure agreement, a master services agreement, something like that. And they can say, hey, procurement and contracts teams, just go out, use these agreements. All of this is done to create efficiencies in the vendor and contract lifecycle management process. And this is the perfect way to start optimizing and creating efficiencies in any of your vendor contract processes. We did a deep dive into how you can automate contract documentation, and I think you'll get a lot of value out of it. So go and check out that video right here, and we'll see you real soon.